Hello everybody, happy Wednesday. My name is Sherry Seligson and we are back doing some more fun science stuff. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about the human body, specifically the sense of taste and smell. And of course, because we're doing taste and smell, we're going to be in the kitchen. So I'm going to hang here for a little bit and wait for more people to jump on to watch what we're doing. We're going to do a couple things. I hope we have enough time. The goal is to make some naan bread, which we're going to talk about how our senses are involved in that. And we can hopefully make some homemade ice cream too. Now the sound that you're making here is because I've invaded the kitchen and we're making coffee just because we need to make coffee at home. So ignore the coffee sounds, ignore the people in the background or the man behind the curtain. But we're going to do some fun stuff as we're talking about the human body, particularly taste and smell. And so what we're going to do to make the naan bread, and as I'm making it, I'm going to tell you what goes into it and how our body tastes and why we have those taste buds and what they do for us. So I'm going to start off with, I'm going to actually make a half recipe, but I'm going to tell you what the whole recipe quantities are as well. So I'm starting with 1 3/4 cup flour, just regular flour, not self-rising flour, but regular flour. And so I have here half of that amount in here because I took mine and I pre-made a batch so that we can roll it out because it's got to sit for about 10 minutes and rest. And I don't want to just have us sitting for 10 minutes. And so I have my 1 3/4 cup flour, or half of that in this container. And then I'm going to add a little bit of sugar. And that sugar, we're going to use a teaspoon of sugar, actually 2 teaspoons total, but I'm going to use 1 teaspoon because I'm making my half batch of sugar. Why am I adding sugar to bread? Well, it depends. If you're using bread that is raised, that you use yeast, yeast has to feed on the sugar. Yeast is actually a living thing, and once you add yeast to your bread, the yeast has to have some food source. And so adding sugar helps yeast to start to grow and to undergo a process called fermentation, where they actually produce carbon dioxide gas, and part of that gas is what results in your bread rising. This is actually an unleavened version. We're not using yeast, but we do need a little bit of sugar because the sugar and the salt that we mix together in foods help to stimulate the different taste buds on our tongue. We have senses of taste that include sweet and salty and bitter and sour, and then a fifth one called umami, which is kind of savory. And we use that combination of senses help us to understand the complexities of the various types of flavors. So when you think about why we would need to identify that helps us if we could identify something that's poisonous to us or not. That's one of the benefits, but it's also to enjoy the rich flavor, because not only can we determine sweet, we can determine about 10 different levels of sweetness, saltiness, 10 different levels of saltiness. When you eat something spicy, you actually end up, it's a pain receptor that receives the saltiness or the spiciness. And so spice is actually a pain receptor, but it's kind of like roller coaster ride pain. You know, people who love spicy stuff, they're enjoying that little bit of pain tingle on their tongue. And so all of those combinations help to build our senses of taste. All right, so I'm going to add a teaspoon of salt, and actually because I'm doing my half recipe, I'm going to add a half teaspoon of salt. So normally would add a teaspoon. I've got a half teaspoon here. And then I'm going to add some baking powder, 3/4 teaspoon of baking powder. Again, I'm going to use half of that because I'm making a half version. So I'm going to use my 1/4 teaspoon. I want 1/4 plus a half of a quarter. There we go. All right, and so those are my dry ingredients. So you're just gonna mix those 4 ingredients together into your bowl and stir it up. Very, very simple. If you're hearing banging in the background, we actually have some construction going on outside, so it's just so much fun. Love quarantine life. Okay, so I've got my my dry ingredients in the bowl, and now I'm just gonna add 2 wet ingredients. So we need 2 teaspoons of oil, and I'm just gonna use 1 teaspoon again because I'm doing a half, and you can use any kind of oil that you would like. There we go. So I'm using half of that, but you normally would use 2 teaspoons of oil. And then 3/4 cup of milk. If you don't do dairy, you certainly could do a milk substitute. Move this over here. Boop. Okay, so I'm going to use half of that amount, 3/4 of a cup. I've got a 1/4 cup here. And then 1/8 of a cup. to do half of my 3/4. Okay. All right, so I have all of those together, and all we do now is we just mix it together, okay? We're gonna mix it up, and it's going to start forming a dough. Now, when you do this at home, if you do it, you might find that your dough is too dry. If it is, you can add a little bit more milk. If it's too wet, you can add a little more flour. And it makes this beautiful dough. And then you're just gonna put a little bit of flour on the counter, and you're going to knead the dough for a couple of minutes. And so I'm just gonna sprinkle some flour on the counter here. Move my flour back, and then turn out my dough, including all of this. And it's a little sticky, but that's okay. We want it a little sticky because as we knead it, we're going to add a little more flour to it. And you don't want real dry dough because then it's not fun to eat. All right, so to knead dough, if you've never kneaded dough before, it's very simple. You've got your little lump of dough here. You're gonna fold it in half and then use the heel of your palm and push. And fold it in half and push. And then you can turn it a quarter turn, fold it in half and push. And you wanna make sure you just keep having some flour on your surface so that it doesn't stick. It's gonna start feeling stickier as you're pushing that in. What's happening is the flour is absorbing the moisture into it. It's actually getting thicker and thicker. It's absorbing it, kind of like uncooked macaroni versus cooked macaroni. All right, and so I just added a little more flour here. So the reason why we have these 4 simple ingredients, I've got baking powder, which helps, it's a leavening agent. It helps to provide some rise. The salt and the sugar, and those are for our taste buds. Now this is kind of a bland kind of bread, that's what its purpose is. So you can use it as a base for other things. You can make a flatbread with this. This may not be a traditional naan. This is just kind of a modified naan bread. I mean, I'm sure there are some of you purists out there who are saying, that's not naan bread. Well, maybe, it's probably not, but it's close. Because it's an unleavened bread, it's a flat bread, it's gonna be cooked on a hot skillet. And so actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get my skillet warming up. You want it on a medium temperature, and then we're gonna put a little bit of oil in that skillet to cook our naan. And what's fun about this is it's fast. It doesn't take a lot of time. It doesn't take a lot of energy, and doesn't even make that much of a mess. And you can do a lot of things. You can make little mini pizzas with it. You can use it to dip into things, which is really fun. So I've got my dough here. And so what you want to do once you've kneaded the dough, it's going to feel really tender and delicate and soft, and that's what you want. And then you want to put it back in the bowl and cover it and let it rest for about 10 minutes. Again, that enables all of those chemicals to mix really well. And so I'm going to do that with this one, but I've already got one that I've done ahead of time so that we don't have to sit for 10 minutes. All right, and so I've got my dough there, and I'm just gonna take off a small bit of dough and we're gonna roll it out. Again, very, very simple. This is all you need, about this much, okay? All right, and then I'm going to take a little bit of oil. I'm gonna use coconut oil. Again, you don't have to use coconut oil, but you can. You can use butter if you like. I'm gonna use a little bit of coconut oil and get that going on the skillet, and I'll show you in a second what that looks like. While we're waiting for that to warm up, I'm gonna get this rolled out flat. So I've got a rolling pin. If you don't have a rolling pin, you could use a paper towel roll, just stuff it with something so it doesn't get collapse. You could use your hands. Actually, there's nothing wrong with using your hands. One thing that you need more flour, enough flour on your surface to roll it flat, and you want to get it pretty thin. This is going to go onto a hot pan, and actually the more irregular shaped it is, the more fun it is, the more authentic it looks. All right, so here's my flatbread ready to go on, my naan, and I'm going to go ahead and set it in the skillet, spread out my oil, and then we'll let it cook. Okay, and then once it's cooked for a little bit, really just a couple of minutes, we'll flip it over and cook the other side. You want it to get brown on both sides. And we're gonna multitask while we're doing that because I want to see if we have enough time to make the homemade ice cream, which I think would be so much fun to do. So let me grab a sponge and clean off my surface for a minute. And then I want to again talk about our taste buds and our smell. Believe it or not, our sense of smell is related to our sense of taste. What happens with taste buds is chemicals in our food attach to or connect to or touch the nerve endings on our taste buds, and that sends signals to our brain to identify flavor, so sweet or savory or whatever, sour. But the same thing happens when we smell something. So let's say you come into the house and mom's been cooking pot roast. Well, pot roast chemicals are floating in the air, and those pot roast chemicals go into your nose area where your olfactory sensory cells are, and those send signals to your brain that says pot roast, pot roast, pot roast. You can come in and smell those things. It's actual chemicals that are floating in the air that come in contact with those sensors in your nose, and those two sensory abilities work together to help you have a full ability to identify flavor of things. So if you lose your sense of smell, you have a much harder time being able to enjoy food, because in fact, you can try this. You can take small bits of similar textured foods like an apple and a small bit of an onion and a small bit of a pear, and blindfold somebody and have them pinch their nose and taste a small chunk of each of those. And it's very difficult to tell the differences because we use a combination of the smelling sense and the taste sense and the textures of all of those things to be able to identify flavor. All right, I'm gonna flip this guy now. And you can see he's gotten a little bit brown. I don't know why I called it guy, but I just did. All right, and so I'm cooking this other one up, and it's gonna stay flat, but it'll thicken up a little bit as some of the moisture inside starts to evaporate as it heats up, and that makes it rise a little bit. And again, it's a beautiful, beautiful way to make something fun that's easy for your kids to do. You don't need a lot of ingredients to make it, and you can do so many things. You can make it sweet. You can put cinnamon and sugar on it. You can make it savory. You can put butter. You can put salt. You can put spices. You can make it hot if you want to use hot spices. So there's so many things you can do with naan bread that doesn't take much time to prepare. All right, so that's going to wrap up that one. I'll cook all those later. That's what we're having for dinner tonight. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a quick version of making ice cream. And this doesn't require very many ingredients either, but it does require a little bit of technique. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add a 1/4 cup sugar, which again, I'm going to use half quantities because I've done this in half already. And so I'm going to take a 1/4 cup measure, or 1/8 of a cup measure. You need a 1/4 cup. I'm using an 1/8 of a cup. And you're going to stick it into a bag. Now you want a quart Ziploc bag. And I'm going to I'm putting it in a container just to hold it upright while I fill it. So I added my 1/8 of a cup of sugar. The recipe calls for a 1/4 cup. Okay, and then we're going to add half a teaspoon of vanilla, or I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla. Again, we're adding some sweet. Now, if you were to taste vanilla, just a tiny dot, don't taste a lot of this stuff, it's strong. But if you were to taste a dot of vanilla, it will not taste sweet. It does not have sugars in it that are identifiable by your tongue. But we always associate vanilla with sweet because those two flavors go together very well. So we add a little bit of vanilla there, and then we're going to add, the recipe calls for a cup of milk. I'm going to add a half a cup of milk. Remember, I'm doing this in a smaller quantity just so it works up a little faster and you can see better what's going on. You can do either way. Pouring that in. And then the recipe calls for a cup of heavy whipping cream or half and half. I'm going to use a half a cup of half and half is what we have. We don't have heavy whipping cream hanging around, but we have coffee drinkers in the house, so we do have half and half. Okay, so there's our half and half. And that's it. Those 4 ingredients. That's all you need for this recipe. Now comes the technique. We're going to zip it together. Now you want a really good freezer bag. This is a quart freezer bag. I'm going to zip it together. I want to seal it well. And the reason is because we're going to start shaking this up to make our ice cream. There's milk fat in here, and that milk fat is going to be freezing, and as it does, it's going to make the ice cream thicker. So to hold it in place, I've got some duct tape just for extra sealing on this bag. All I've got are those 4 ingredients: sugar, vanilla, milk, and half. Now the creamy part of the half and half, that's another part of the flavors going on in our mouth when you eat ice cream. The creaminess, that texture, the richness of the fat adds to the flavor explosion that goes on in your mouth. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put it in a Ziploc bag, a gallon zipper bag. That's a freezer bag. And we're going to add a whole bunch of crushed ice around it. Let me break up my crushed ice. And then we're going to add something interesting. We're going to add salt. Now, the recipe calls for rock salt. I don't have rock salt, but regular salt works just as well. What you have to be careful of is you want to make sure it's evenly distributed around. The reason why rock salt works so great is it's in bigger chunks, and so it doesn't break up or dissolve as easily. The reason why you add this, I'm going to add about, I don't know, maybe 3/4 cup of salt. And the reason why you add salt is because it starts to cause the ice to melt a little bit. It's creating salt water, and salt water has a higher freezing temperature than regular water, which is why when you have snow on the roads or ice on the roads, they'll put salt on the roads, and that's because it causes the snow to melt, because usually at freezing temperatures. Now it won't work if it's like 20 below. That's not going to help. But when it's just a little bit below freezing, salt water has a higher freezing temperature than fresh water. So adding the salt makes it get a little bit, makes it melt. But this combination of the salt and the ice together actually causes the temperature to get a little bit colder. And that's what makes the ice cream do its thing. So now that we have our containers here, I'm going to take a towel and just wrap it up in the towel so I don't freeze my hands. And then you want to shake this thing. This is going to be a 10-minute fun activity. You're going to wrap it up in a towel and then just pass it around the house and let everybody do their shaking, just like this. Pass it around the house and shake it up. 10 minutes. It's a great arm workout. All right, just let the kids sing to a song or dance, and you can just sit and like pat it like a baby. You can wrap it. The whole point is we want to get that mixture going so that the ice is evenly distributed around, and the sugar, not the sugar, the salt, so they stay nice and mixed, and it's exposing all of the inside container to the cold temperature. Okay, and once you've done that, and I've already done this ahead of time, got my arm workout today, you end up with ice cream. This is the ice cream that I made earlier, and I don't know if I don't have scissors here. I've got a knife. Here we go. I'll use a knife. Sacrifice my bag. And I open it up, and I will use this scooper here. Look at that. We've got ice cream. All right, ice cream is I would call it a medley, a musical medley of flavor. It's got sweet, it's got salty, it's got not savory, but creamy. The vanilla adds some extra fun to it. The sugar makes it sweet. It's delicious. It's really, really good. And it's cold. And that's another thing, temperature. You have temperature sensors in your mouth as well. So temperature and spiciness and the five sensory tastes of sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami or savory, all in combination with the smells, help to create literally over 100,000 different flavor combinations, okay? When you talk about the degrees of those flavors as well. And that to me goes beyond our need to have taste. Most people say we got our taste buds. People who don't believe in creation, believe it or not, or say that these taste buds and our tastes were designed to help us identify poisonous materials from and tell there's some things that are safe to eat. But there's some poisonous materials out there, like certain mushrooms and things, that taste fine. And so it's not necessarily for that. Why do we have so many combinations of flavors? I think it's to enjoy the food that God's given us to have. And so thank you guys for joining me. We had a lot of fun. I hope you guys try some of these. If you do, send me some photos. I hope to be back on tomorrow, and we'll talk about something more fun. Just have fun together, guys. That's why we're home together, to be safe, to enjoy one another, take that time, make the learning fun. Don't feel pressured about having to do a million things. Just have fun together. Document it, take pictures, and then you've got this beautiful portfolio of all the things you've done in the last couple of weeks. So enjoy that, enjoy the time together with one another, and I hope to be back with you again at this time again tomorrow on the Hip Homeschool Moms page. Thanks a lot for joining me.